Hi guys, welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to discuss demand and supply. What is demand? Demand is the willingness and the ability of consumers to purchase a particular commodity at a given price. For example, when the price is $5, are you willing and able to buy? So that is what demand measures. So that is demand. Then we have the law of demand, which backs demand. Okay, it's a law which relates quantity demanded to price. Okay, so it says that when the price of a good is very high or high, people or consumers tend to buy less. When the price is low, they tend to buy more. So you can see there's a negative or an inverse relationship between the quantity demanded of a good and the price, right? So that is the law of demand, which will be demonstrated very soon using the equations and the tables or the graphical means. Now the demand equation. Now this is a model, okay, that was developed by economists. We relate the quantity demanded of a good to its price. So for instance, when the value of A is 20 and the B is 4. This is how our demand equation is going to look like. Q is going to be equal to 20 minus 4 D. So this is the question that we have to answer. At $3, how much of the commodity is expected to be consumed by the consumer? At $3, that's the price. So at price $3, how much of the good do you expect the consumer to buy or purchase? So putting 3 in place of P, now have 8 units of the good. So the consumer will buy 8 when the price is 3. So this is how the demand equation looks like. Now, let's go ahead to demonstrate the law of demand. Now, the demand curve. So we could see that in the equation, we could have a lot of quantity demanded, or the relationship will develop more by putting different prices in the equation to develop different or quantity demanded for this commodity. So at price zero, we realize that the quantity demanded by the consumer will be 20 at 1 to be 60, then continues to 3 or to be 8. So if you plot this table on a graph, you're gonna have this. And you can see that this is the demand curve. Okay, this curve is the demand curve. And it's really down sloping. You can see that the curve is down slope from top to down, right? So this shows that the demand curve is always down sloping. Okay, and that shows the inverse or the negative relationship between demand, quantity demanded and price. So when the price increases, quantity demanded will decrease. Now, what determines demand? Demand is determined by a lot of factors. Factors like the own price of the commodity. So you see earlier we demonstrated how price affects quantity demanded. So when the price increases, they tend to buy less, and when it's decreases, they tend to buy more. Right. So that is own price of commodity. We also have price of related goods. That is the substitutes and the complements. Okay. So for instance, complement goods, they are usually consumed together. So when the price of one increases, you are forced to buy more of the other. And the substitute goods, they are used in place of the other. So let's assume coffee and tea. When the price of tea is very high, people will tend to buy less of tea and more of coffee. All right. So you can see that the price of one will affect the price of or the demand of the other. Right. So that is the price of relative. How it affects demand. And we have consumers income level. When the income level of consumers is very high, regardless of the price, they tend to buy less, I mean more. Okay. So when their income increases at the same price, you see that they buy more of the commodity. All right. So when your income was $4,000, you used to buy 20 of the good. When your income increases to say $5,000, you tend to buy more of the good. Right. So that's how income level affects you. We have culture. In Africa and in some developing countries, you see that their way of life, what they eat, and they all they wear, their behavior, everything affects demand. Okay. So let's say, for instance, the Muslims, they tend to a religion. In terms of religion, they don't consume pigs. They don't consume pork. I mean pigs. Swine. Right. So in Muslim community, they will tend to buy less of pigs. Okay. So in that case, you can see how culture or religion affects demand. You also have special occasions. Let's say, for instance, you have Easter celebrations, Christmas, or people tend to buy, for instance, in the poultry industry, people tend to buy more broilers, okay, for meat, so they could do their preparation of food for the occasions and stuff. So you can see that the demand will increase, demand for broilers, for instance, will increase during those occasions, and that's how that affects demand. Now, let's look at the concept of substitute goods and complementary goods. And earlier, I explained to you what substitute goods are. They are consumed in place of the other. All right, so when the price of one increases, we tend to buy the other. They are consumed in place of the other. They can be substituted. For instance, tea and coffee. And you have complementary goods. They are consumed together. For instance, butter and bread. When you buy butter, when you buy bread, you are forced to buy butter. So you could use them together. All right, that's complementary goods. Now, let's look at supply. First, supply. Now, we looked at demand and we said that the willingness and the ability of consumers to buy a good at a given price is what we call demand. Now, the supply is actually liquid. So, in the market, in the market, you have two things that's going, there's demand and supply. Right? So, you have to look at supply when you look at demand. So, supply measures the willingness and the ability of producers or producers or suppliers to put on the market a commodity at a given price. So you can see that whenever we bring in price because price is a big time determinant of demand and supply, right? So that is supply. Now the law of supply. For the law of supply, it says that when the price of a particular commodity is high, consumers tend to supply more, and when it's low, they tend to supply less. So in this case, there's a direct relationship. Okay? There's a direct or positive relationship. So far as one is increasing, the other increases. So when price increases, they tend to put more on the market. You know why? Suppliers are profit maximizers. They want to maximize their profit. Okay? So they tend to put more on the market when they see that they actually will get more from the supply. Okay, and then they do the opposites when the price is low. Now we look at the supply equation. So far as supply is concerned, okay, we have the economists, they are able to develop the model for supply as well as demand. So we supply is the model. The current supply is equal to negative C plus GP, okay, where C and D are just constants. Okay, they are constants. All right, so for instance, if you have QS to be negative 6 plus 4P, um, as our supply equation, what happens when P is 1? So when P is 1, you can see that the Q is going to be negative 6 plus 4. All right, 4 times 1 plus going to be negative 2. And then when the P is 4, our Q is going to be negative 6 plus 4 times 2. That's going to be negative 6 plus 8. It's going to be 2. So you can see that at price 1, suppliers didn't put anything on the market. Our supply was negative, and we don't have a negative supply. Okay, so that means that they are not willing to put their products on the market at all when the price is 1. But when the price increased from 1 to 2, you realize that the suppliers supplied just 2 of the 2, just 2, right? So that is their willingness to put the good on the market. All right. Now look at determinants of supply. What factors determine supply? A factor, for instance, like factor prices, the price of the resources that the suppliers will use to produce. When the price is low, those resources like land, capital, and others, labor costs, and everything. When those resources their prices are low, they tend to put more of them. They tend to puts more into the production. So you produce more supply. Okay, that will increase the supply in the markets. Okay. But then to determine the determinants of supply, very first thing I'll talk about is the price, the own price of the commodity. Okay, the own price of the commodity. The butter price was determined earlier. I mean, discussed earlier. Then what about own price of commodity? That is the price of the good in the market that you have supply. So let's say tomatoes. If they have supplied tomatoes, if the price of tomato is high, from the law of supply, if the price of tomato is high, they tend to supply more tomatoes. And if it's low, they tend to supply less. Right? So the own price of the commodity also determines this. I mean supply. So we've spoken about butter prices. Now we look at price of related goods. So substitutes and complements come in here as well. So with complements, we said they are consumed together. So if the price of bread is high, butter suppliers will also tend to supply more butter because people tend to buy more bread. I mean, people tend to suppliers will tend to put more bread on the market. Okay, but then sometimes it doesn't work that way. Okay, and then you also have the substitutes. With the substitute goods like tea and coffee, if the price of tea is high, people tend to buy more coffee, right? The consumers will tend to buy more coffee. And so there will be higher demand for coffee. So that will increase the price of coffee. So more suppliers, more supply of coffee will be done. Suppliers will be putting more, coffee on the market. That is how it works for the two. Then we have the availability of resources. So if the resources that they are going to use to produce are available, they will be able to produce. Sometimes depending on geographical locations where you are, if the resources you need to produce a particular good aren't available, you tend to produce less and hence supply less. And we talk about technology. The technology, if we look at a farmer that is using the traditional method of farming, that is the whole the cutlass system, it tend to produce less, okay, as compared to a producer that is using machinery, tractors, combine harvesters and the likes. So they will tend to produce more. So their supply will be higher than someone that is using the traditional method. Currents of natural disasters should natural disasters like flooding, bushfires, and all will also decrease supply. They will affect supply. Now look at the supply curve. So given this supply equation, negative 8 QS equals negative 8 plus 12P. We want to put in some prices, that is different prices as we did for demand. This table shows the price of eggs. So the quantity supplied increase. Okay. So if the price is zero, how much the producers put in the market? When the price is one, how much they? So from here zero, you can see that the supply value was negative 8. This was actually negative. And as I said earlier, we don't have negative supply, so the negative quantity. Okay. So negative quantity supplied or quantity demand. So you see that yeah, the suppliers are not willing to put on the market their eggs because that will be very, very bad because there's no you are going to supply at free cost or something. You're not going to get anything in return. Supply, don't get anything. Since price is zero. Price determines revenue. Revenue equals what? The price of the good times the quantity. See, so if the price is zero, it means your revenue is zero, and so they will not supply anything. But when the price is $1, one Ghana cedis, the supply was four, right? So you can see that now they are willing to supply. Okay. So when the price is one, they supply four. When the price is two, they supply 16, and three, they supply 28. So you can see that as price increases, supply or quantity supplied of eggs also increases. Okay. So that is the relationship. Okay, this is how the law of supply is demonstrated. Now, if we plot these values on a graph, then you're gonna have something like this. All right. So it starts from the negatives, then there's the positives. Now you see that the this curve or this graph, okay, is upward sloping. It starts from down to top. But the demand, we realize that it starts from top to down. That was downward sloping. But then this one is upward sloping, down to top. Okay, so that is showing a positive relationship between the price, which is on the y-axis, and the quantity supplied, which is on the x-axis. So as price increases, more of the good is supplied. That is the relationship. Now we talk about equilibrium analysis. Now, equilibrium analysis. For equilibrium analysis, you have to understand what determines price in the price of a particular commodity in the market. So if the price, what, under what condition will you say that the price of apple is $3? Okay, there are two different forces that affect the price of a commodity: the demand and the supply. Okay, so if the demand is high, we said that if the demand is high, they tend to, if the price is high, they tend to demand more for the good. And if the price is high, they tend to demand less. But you want to also understand that if the price is high, more will be supplied. And if the price is low, less will be supplied. So that relationship. But we are saying that the two forces that determine price are what demand and supply. So demand and supply must come into agreement before people settle on a particular price for commodity. And they coming into agreement means that the both curves, okay, will cut each other at particular points. Okay, that is why we talk about equilibrium. So if the demand curve meets the supply curve, the points where they meet, okay, they're gonna have the price, equilibrium price, and then the equilibrium quantity. Okay. So that is that. So we have the concept of equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity as said earlier. Then we have a question. Now, given that the demand and supply equation of quantity demanded is going to be 23 minus 5p. That is the demand equation. And quantity supplied is going to be negative 7 plus 10p as the supply equation. Determine the equilibrium values. Now, how do we determine equilibrium values? I said earlier that the point where the demand equation cuts the demand curve or cuts the supply curve. That is the point of equilibrium. Okay, so at equilibrium, we always do this assumption that the quantity demanded minus quantity supply is equal to zero. The excess demand should be equal to zero at equilibrium. It's just the same as the demand curve cutting the supply curve. They meeting each other. So they're going to be equal. That means that QD, when you put the QS to the right hand side, you're going to have QD equals QS. Okay, so you are going to equate the two equations. So 23 minus 5p demand, then negative 7 plus 10 supply. So you solve this equation. You realize that the 7 will come to this side, you're going to have 23 plus 7 plus 10p. Then the negative 5p goes to the other side, you're going to have 5p. So in all, you're going to have 30 equals 15p. So p equals 2. Alright, so the equilibrium price is going to be 2. Then now that we've been able to determine the equilibrium price, which is 2, we are saying that equilibrium demand is the same as supply. So you can use any of the equations, either the demand equation or the supply equation, to determine the equilibrium quantity. So the equilibrium quantity Q is going to be, we use the demand equation in this case. So it's going to be putting 2 in place of P, right? We're going to get 13 units. So at equilibrium, people tend to buy 13 units of the good when the price is 2. Okay, so those are the two equilibrium values, the P and the price and the quantity. Now, this is another example. Uh, I I suggest or advise you to pause the video, then try it on your own before proceed. Right? So the question goes: suppose the market supply and demand for guitars in Happy Valley are given by demand P equals 1500 minus 0.5 Q. Supply equation P equals 150 plus 0.25 Q. what are the equivalent price and quantity of the product? So they are demanding for the price and the quantity at equilibrium. So what do you do? In tackling this question, we decided to change the equation into relating the Q to the P instead of the P to the Q. That was done in the question. We'll solving it that way, we're gonna get the same answers. Alright, so with the first one, that is the demand equation, we sent the negative 0.5 to the right hand side and brought the P to the right. I mean the negative 0.5 Q to the left hand side and brought the P to the right hand side. So you're trying to make Q, okay, the subject. Right, so making Q the subject, you multiply Q by two, okay, multiply 2 by 2, you're gonna have 3000 minus 2p as the demand equation. How about the supply equation? For the supply equation, we are making the Q the subject as we did for the demand. So you send the 150 to the left hand side. Okay, you have 0.25 Q gonna be equal to negative 150 plus P. So in this case, you multiply 2 by 4. We're gonna get QS to be negative 600 plus 4P as the supply equation. So these are the two equations. So to determine the equilibrium values, that is the price and the quantity, you equate demand to supply. Okay, so at equilibrium, QD minus QS should be equal to 0. That is the excess demand should be equal to 0. So QD equals QS. So the demand equation equals the supply equation. So bringing negative 600 to the right, I mean to the left, and negative 2p to the right, you're gonna have 3600 equals 6p. Then you divide it by 6, you're gonna have p to be equal to 600. So from the demand equation, in this case, to reuse the demand equation, you can decide to use the supply equation to determine the equilibrium quantity. Now, putting 600 in the equation, you're gonna have 3000 minus 2 times 600. So our value, our answer is gonna be 1800 units of the commodity. So that is how we go about equilibrium analysis or equilibrium quantity and then the equilibrium price. Now let's look at the concept of change in demand and changes quantity demanded. They are two things, two different things altogether. Change in demand and change in quantity demanded. So when we were defining demand, we said their ability and willingness to purchase a good at a price. Then the quantity demanded is just the amount or the quantity of a good they are buying at a price. So we could see there are different things altogether. Willingness and quantity are not the same. Okay, willingness and ability and also quantity they are not the same. So in this example, we gave a demand equation to be 30 minus 8p, QD equals 30 minus 8p. So at price 1, our quantity is going to be 22. So you put 1 in place of P, we're going to have 22. At price 2, the quantity is going to be 14. At price 3 is going to be 6. So this curve or this graph is just the plot. We plotted the values of P against Q. So price on the y-axis and the quantity demanded on the x-axis. So this is how it's going to look like. Now, if you see that the curve is downwards sloping from top to down, to downwards sloping, and also this graph is showing the change in the quantity demanded. Okay, so initially our price, so starting from the top, okay, starting from the top, when the quantity is 6, the price was 3. The price was 3. When it when the price decreased from 3 to 2, the quantity also increased from 6 to 14. Right, so those dots are the points, okay, the points that were plotted. That is the what was written earlier, 30 minutes, I mean P1, Q22, P2, Q14, P3, Q6. Those are the points that were plotted. Right, so that's how it looks like. So this graph is just showing a change along the curve. So with change in quantity demanded, we see that there's a change along the curve. Okay, there's no shift, only a change along the curve. So you can see that we are moving down, as the price keeps decreasing. That is the change in quantity demanded. Now let's look at change in demand. Now, a change in demand, we're having the first curve to be D1, okay, the blue curve to be D1. Then the second curve is the left hand side of the D1. We have D2. Okay, that is the new demand curve. So with this, you can see a shift from D1 to D2. Okay. Now, what's causing the shift? What's causing the shift? Now you see that in change in quantity demanded, we're only looking at one factor of the demand. Okay, we are looking at only price, the price of the commodity. So when the price changes, how does quantity demanded react? Okay. So when it was 1, quantity demand was 20 in that order. So we say that only the price of the commodity caused a change in quantity demanded. So the price of commodity caused a change in the quantity demanded only, not a change in demand, but a change in quantity demanded only. Okay, so that is what was demonstrated over here. But with the change in demand, we look at all other factors. Okay, so we are looking at price two. Okay, you can see that price two, the demand was somewhere 14. Okay, at P2, the P is one on the y-axis. So at price two, the quantity was 14. Okay, but then when the price remained the same, there was a shift. So what caused the shift to the left? Okay, so the same price, but then this time the curve is moving to the left. The whole curve moved. Okay, unlike the quantity demanded where we are moving along one curve, but this time we're having two curves where the initial one moved to the left. Okay, so that could result from changes in consumers' income, for example. Okay, so all the other factors that determine demand, apart from the own price of the commodity, can cause this. Okay, so a decrease in those factors. For instance, the consumer's taste and preference. If they are no more interested in uh, eggs and they want broilers, the meat, then they will tend to buy less egg. Okay, so in that case, the price of the egg will not determine anything, but then their taste and preference will determine the demand. Okay, so and also consumers' income. If their income decreases, they will tend to buy less of the good. Okay, so in this case, you could see that at for instance, at P2, they were buying 14, but then when their income level, for instance, decreased, they started to buy for instance, 4 at the same price, P2. Okay, so that is how this is what the graph shows. So this is a shift in demand from right to left. Okay. You can also have a shift from left, I mean, from left to right. Okay. The curve can equally move to the shift to the right or shift to the left. So in this case, it was shifting to the left. You can also have the conditions or situation where the shift to the right. Okay. So that is the concept of quantity change in quantity demand and change in demand. So the change in demand, we call it shift in demand. Okay. There you go. Thank you so much.